All right, back at it again. Got another great podcast. Hopefully, we're going to talk to Corey Stefanik. Played at Holy Cross. Actually, I'll take a step back. Played high school at Don Bosco Prep, national powerhouse, top program in New Jersey. Probably was the top program when he played, and played at Holy Cross, which is also obviously a big FCS power. Teammate of Liam Anderson in college, played side by side with each other, and that was a powerhouse defense for years as well at college level. And now he's a defensive coordinator at a powerhouse program in Massachusetts, Catholic high school. And we'll talk to him more. They call it Catholic Memorial. What do they call it there? Is it Catholic Memorial? Sorry, Catholic Memorial.
Gotcha.
Yep, Catholic Memorial High School in Massachusetts. So, and we'll let you run with it a little bit. But without further ado, if anything you want to talk about Corey, just from obviously you have much more personal experience before we bring him on.
No, I mean, listen, great player, great kid, comes from would have gone to a good public school program here in Jersey at Ramapo High School, decided to make that move to go to Bosco, and actually played as well in high school with Rashawn Gross, who was just our most recent guest, and was kind of that new regime that came in after those Bosco powerhouses. So a little bit of that, ends up going to Holy Cross, plays with Liam Anderson there, and now just transitions right into the coaching role. So excited to hear kind of a little bit about, Massachusetts high school football from a perspective of a guy who's been at the highest of the levels. So I'm looking forward to it. There he is.
Coach,
what's up,
there he
guy?
is.
What's going on? How you guys doing?
Coach is right. You do got a great smile, man. You got a great smile.
Stop it.
That's gonna get you everywhere you need to be.
So that's part of it. That's half the battle right there. Work a little bit harder when you got a mug like this, dude. Like, you get that little smile. You're good, man. But hey, appreciate you. We appreciate you taking the time. We know it's busy in season and whatnot to come out and just talk a little ball with us.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you guys having me on.
My first question, which is unrelated to all the other stuff, when Coach brought up that you would have went to Ramapo, which town are you from?
I'm from Franklin Lakes.
Franklin Lakes Junior football. Then so you played Franklin Lakes Junior football.
Yes, sir. Coach Medici,
Yes, I know him well. I
got us fired up, man. I'll tell you, those are good times. It was a lot of fun back then.
I was at Indian Hills for a couple of years. So and I would always be over at Franklin Lakes games, watching them, and Coach Medici coaching the upper level guys. It was great. He's great, great guy. And you guys had your own stadium. It's like a little stadium. Yeah, it was a cool little. Yeah, it was cool.
That's all Phil Sims right there.
Was it? That was all Phil?
Yeah, he put it all together. It was nice turf. Before that, it was an awful grass field. But then he got the nice turf. He got the little stands. It's nice.
Yeah, no, it's nice. It opens, his backyard opens to it. He would walk down.
He needed a facility to work out on. He might as well do too for
Chris, Chris, and for the boy Matt. So that's great. That's great. That was sticking in his head as soon as he said he could have would have went to a good public school. I was like, which town he was from.
Yeah,
because I know how the whole that having coached up there, Wyckoff, Franklin Lakes, and Oakland, like that's the kids are always where are these guys going? And the Franklin Lakes guys went to Don Bosco. That's where a lot of the really good players. I mean, still to this day, that's where they go.
Yeah, I think you had a couple guys from your class go, I think, right?
Yeah, me and Mike D'Alessandro were the two that took the trip over there. And then Johnny Lutz, I don't know if you remember John Lutz.
The comedian of the group.
Yeah, the legend.
Literally the legend, and not for any athletic purpose whatsoever.
Yeah, just the man. Just straight up the man, Good kid. But Mike D'Alessandro, who ended up playing the crossover at UNC. Great athlete. We ended up taking the trip over to Bosco.
That's really, really cool. So you've had an amazing playing career, and now you're coaching at a great program. let's start back in the, I guess, the early days, like Depascale. You played under Toll, right? And what are some of the lessons that you learned? I mean, for me, as far as New Jersey goes, and it's such a shame what happened at the end there too. But he is the greatest high school coach in New Jersey history, bar none. Like long before he came to Bosco, he was already, he had won all those championships at Hackensack. He coached at where I grew up. He in Saddlebrook in the 80s and took a team that was terrible to the deep into the playoffs. Then he went to Riverdale and won state championships. They had Hackensack, then obviously turned Bosco into a powerhouse. Well, what was it like playing for him, and what were a lot of the lessons you learned there?
Man, it wasn't easy. I'll tell you that. It wasn't the easiest thing ever. You had to be a special person to be able to play under Coach Toll, and a lot of guys couldn't make it. I think my freshman class, we came in like 140 kids, and the senior class, we might have had 30 left. So that tells you a lot right there. And I think what Toll does, he instills toughness in people. If you're not tough, you're not going to be able to go through that. And that brings on to life, being tough. A lot of stuff happens. You get fired. Bad things happen. How are you going to bounce back and keep going the next play? And that's what I think Toll really instilled in me the most is, what am I going to do next? I screwed up here. What am I going to do next to fix that? What am I going to do next to build off that sort of thing? So for me, Toll really instilled that toughness in me. And I think everybody would agree with me that was his thing. We were tough guys. We went down to Florida. They were a million times more athletic. They should have destroyed us, but we were tougher than them. We outlasted them. We played every play hard as we could.
Yeah.
So I think that's what Toll really, that was his difference maker, is making tough kids who wanted it, who loved it, who wanted to keep coming and, work as hard as we possibly could. So that's probably my top takeaway from Coach Toll.
Well, I remember all the speeches. That's the first thing. We're the tough guys. We're the tough guys.
Man. Oh, when he started throwing some,
when he started throwing them in that pregame speech, it was.
You can't tell that your head wasn't exploding.
Here we go.
You knew we were about to put up some points.
And he was in his head. He was back to those days when he was boxing too.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
100%,
man.
Yeah. If you didn't want to be, if you were in that locker room and you were in that front row on a knee, the second you saw him take that little step and get into that, you were, here it goes. You know what I'm saying? Like, of course, Rashawn Gross be the first guy in the front row, like, hit me. It's like
Gross was
you knew it was coming, but definitely that was definitely something that and like you said, like, you couldn't be that guy because that's just what he demanded. Like, guys would get weeded out based off of that, right? Like, because you had to keep coming every play, every day, you know, and it wasn't so much games. Those were the easy parts, right? The practices, that stuff is where he instilled that toughness just all the time.
Yeah, 100%. I think the practice was a million times harder than any game that we played in. We went ones-on-ones every day. Everything was a competition. Right from the jump of practice, we had goal line. We were one guy on the 3-yard line, one guy heels on the goal line. Let's compete. Loser starts bear crawl in the end zone, It was nonstop. Everything we did was just competition, toughness. It was a fight.
That's how it should be.
I agree.
It's harder to do it now, as you know, as a coach. Like the way that things you played in high school, probably at the tail end. Because I remember we were doing
23rd. So your last season was 2013, right?
Yeah.
High school, you graduated. So graduation 2014, right?
Right.
Sure.
I feel like 2014, 2015 was like the last years before everyone started coming down on all these different things, But those are like the last years you were like, you could get away with stuff. But then all of a sudden the next year they're handing you like, how many hours did you have contact in practice? And
how many water breaks do you need?
I can't do 2 a days anymore for longer than this. And
crazy.
So
2 days.
Those were the last.
Yeah, man.
It's funny because then they wonder. Then you get like people like, "Oh, football's not as good." It's like, well, how is it going to be? How could it be? Like, I mean,
You take all that away.
Yep.
You know, it's a different game now. It's
a different game. It's a different game.
Yeah, I remember 2-a-days back at Bosco were actually easier than the single days because the single days were just the 2-a-days condensed. You know, like
yeah, 3 hours.
Yeah, it was just the full thing. There was no break in the middle.
And that wasn't Bergen week.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah, that was in the summer. Imagine Bergen week. Oh.
Yeah. See, guys are like, guys are now like, oh, my ride's coming at this time, or I got to be out of practice. It's Bergen week, dude. Are you crazy? Like,
they can wait.
I'll tell you a funny story. When I was this is a long time ago because I'm obviously much older than both of you. But when I was a little kid, I used to go. Toll was at Saddlebrook High School for 2 years, and I used to go and watch the practices. But I would have my practice as a little football and go over and watch. Well, you could go over and watch because Toll practiced so long, okay, so long that like they would have the lights and Saddlebrook. I don't know if you ever see Saddlebrook High School. Like there's no lights, there's nothing there. There's no like. So people would have the they would have their cars lined up in the parking lot with the lights on.
Sounds about right.
They would practice. It would be like 7:30, at night, starting at like when school at 3, I guess. Like
that sounds about Bergen week.
Yeah, that was like the old days. So like by the time he got to you, he was probably like semi softer even.
Yeah. I guarantee you not much.
He must have been. I think he was in his 20s. He might have been in his 20s or like early 30s. And I just remember I would go over there and they'd be like, "Oh, let's see if we can catch the end of the practice." And they'd be like, "Oh, don't worry, they're still practicing." Like,
don't worry, they still got an hour to go.
And we didn't start youth practice till like 5. So it's pretty funny.
Different.
Oh yeah,
and still going.
Oh yeah, I know. He's a legend.
So is he does he help out at Bergen? He does. Okay.
He's still at Bergen.
Is he? I didn't know if he was.
I know he's there. He's on staff.
Oh, he is there. Okay.
Right? I don't know. I don't know the essence of everything.
I don't think he's doing as much anymore.
Correct. Right. And I believe he's only doing, listen, his specialty, a lot of people, was like D-line. Like that was when we did individual, like some way, shape, or form, he always seemed to end up by the D lineman. So you could see why like Rashawn, right? Like Gross, like worships him because they got that much time together. And when they came down to it, like he knew what he was talking about. You know what I mean? Like you think motivator, head coach, like he knew his X's and O's just as well as everybody else. And that was just something that was different for those teams, like the amount of time that he really would put into that stuff. And then ultimately it led to success.
Oh yeah. And the coaching staff that he built around him was unbelievable.
And I try to tell people this, right? Like you look at that coaching staff now, like guys that are in high level positions. I mean, we're talking the offensive coordinator, Iggy that's at Bosco now. I mean, him and I were like the lowest dudes on the totem pole, like going to grab you guys a Gatorade if you needed it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like we were at that level, worked our way up. Coach Morangi, who's now been the head coach at St. Joe's, who we've talked to and done things with, coach and whatnot. Like those guys have all progressed in their careers, and it's all because of him.
All started with him. I mean, Coach Ants with the Dolphins, right?
And has been through multiple head coaches. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you look at a guy that's gone to that level and through college, right? Like how many stops did he have in college? He's just, and I don't even know anything about any of the other guys before him or any of his other staffs, and to have done it at multiple programs, you're just fortunate in that you played for a guy like that. But I also think that's what helped you transition to when you were at Holy Cross. And when you got there, speak a little bit on that program.
Yeah, Holy Cross was amazing. It was an interesting 4 or 5 years that I went through because we did have a coach change. So I came in under Coach Gilmore. Not sure if you guys know who he is. Solid guy, great guy. He recruited me in. I got a full scholarship. I went to the camp, got a scholarship, went in there. For the first 2 years, he was our head coach, and we just weren't getting it done. We had losing seasons. It wasn't going well. After we played, I believe Yale, I think it was my junior year, he ended up getting let go, and we had a whole transition season for the second half of the season. And then from there, we brought in Coach Chesney.
Coach Ches, man, different dude. I believe from Assumption.
Yeah, from Assumption. So he climbed the pole too, man. He's just like Coach Toll. He turns losing programs into championship programs, you know. Came into Holy Cross. We had a losing season. We just lost our head coach. Didn't know what to do. He took things different, and he talked to us. Said, like, what do we need? What is it that we want to do? Where do we want to take this program? Not, I want to do this. You know, it wasn't about him. It was about us. And I think everybody bought into that. And his leadership and his, you know, the way he ran the program really changed everything. He brought that competition back into place. We were doing situational drills at all times. Everything was sprinting, full speed. So once Chesney came in, it really changed everything. And from there on, we just started skyrocketing. And now I think they've won five Patriot League championships in a row. They went undefeated.
Like Liam never lost the division. Like he was the league champ every year he played at Holy Cross.
For that, so we won on my 5th year. That was the first time, and I think it was
right because you did 5.
I think I broke my ankle my sophomore year. That was a rough one. Played on it for like 4 weeks, but got worse and worse, you know. But my 5th year, we finally won. We finally won, and before that, I think it was like 10, 12 years before the last time we won, and now they've won 5 in a row. So you could tell the guys changed the program.
That's incredible. What was living in Worcester like?
The G-rated version, please. All right.
Worcester's nice, man. It's definitely a lot different now that I'm gone. They got rid of Kelly Square. It's not, you know, used to. I don't know if you know what Kelly Square is, but it was an intersection with like 9 different ways to come in and go.
Chaos.
You really got to be a Jersey guy and go.
That's it. See, there you go. Jersey guys can drive anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. It comes with us, you know. But now they got the light in there, so it's nicer. They got a brand new baseball stadium for the Woo Sox. They're really leveling it up. But when I was there, you know, it wasn't the nicest place. But
you gotta watch your back in Worcester. So
yeah, you gotta watch your back. You gotta pay attention where you are, kind of thing. But
a lot of hills on that campus, bro.
Everybody had great calves.
That's it.
Everybody had great calves.
Well, it's one of the most unique stadiums too. It's like like on the highway, like literally.
You can see the game from the highway. It's
yeah.
Nice stadium though, right? And I'm sure they went through a couple renovations. Like it's a really nice place to like see a game.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful. Giant stadium, and they just added the scoreboard. They got the camera now. They told us they couldn't have it back then, but all of a sudden we got it. So you know,
hey man, that's what happens when you win league titles, dude. You get a lot of things.
They start upgrading it.
Bosco got a new weight room too, bro. Your cafeteria is now the weight room.
Yeah, that's insane to me. Our weight room was that little tiny box, and we locked the doors.
I don't even know if you could call it a box. Dave, when I walked in, and I can remember, this was one of the first things I was like in awe of. Like, this is Don Bosco's weight room. I mean, Dave, it's in all of the weight rooms. It was half. I don't even know if it was half a classroom.
It was
right.
Like it was probably the old phys ed equipment room.
Right. Well, that's how they all used to be.
Right. And then but like these guys got got after it in there,
right.
But like just to see the upgrades. Yeah.
They got to the point where if you were standing on this side, you couldn't see the wall on this side because of all the steam coming up because there's no AC.
Crazy.
We had one little fan
ventilation
going around.
Yeah, COVID did away with that one.
Oh yeah.
What was like the biggest transition going from high school to college at Holy Cross? Like what was different, you know, because listen, you really played at a high level program. Holy Cross was on the rise, became on the rise, but college wise, football wise, what was different from playing it at Bosco in high school to college?
I think for me, it was the fact that the speed was a little faster, but I think the X's and O's was the biggest difference. Understanding the concepts of what defenses were playing and why everything works the way it works was probably the most for me. And then just the time management aspect of it was a big change too. But when I got my first start was our third game of the season. So I was able to, get into that level very quickly, which helped me, really grow from there. So the biggest change for me was just learning what I have to do and how I could help the team. Especially, coming from Bosco, you were a top dog, and walk in day one, I was on scout team. And I was like, what is this? I've never done this.
Never done a scout team rep in your life.
Yeah, I had to work, and by week 2, I was in the rotation, and week 3, I was starting. So I was able to really transition. I think playing at Bosco helped me with that, just because it is such a high level, and you're playing unbelievable guys. I played Alvin Cook. I played the Bosa brothers. I played unbelievable guys in high school. And when I got to college, it was similar. There wasn't that big of a jump. So I think I was lucky with that. But the X's and O's and, the film study, that was the biggest difference for me.
Right. Well, I think that's a huge thing when you come from a great program like Bosco. I think if you're a high level player, you're probably more ready made when you come in.
Right.
And then the key is, are you willing to keep pushing it to the next level?
Yeah.
Because that's because you'll have guys, and you probably saw that, like a Holy Cross, you probably played at a higher level than almost everybody on your team in high school. You know what I mean? Than the guys that you played at Holy Cross. But those guys may have taken more time to figure out, and some of those guys might have big upsides, right? So like Liam Anderson would be a good example, even though you guys, I know you won the state championship at Old Japan, but the levels are different, right? I mean, sorry, Derek, I said Old Japan. I mean, Mount Olive. And so I used to coach at Old Japan. That's why I said that. The levels are different in high school. So Liam had to probably jump levels to get himself prepared, where you were at a certain high level, and then you have to continue to push. I always noticed that was the interesting thing of guys who came in from big high schools. Like, I remember they were always guys that are already made, right?
Right.
Like,
those guys usually play sooner, right? Like they're at that level where they just pick it up quicker. Like you said, by game 3, you were starting. Liam, it took him till probably his redshirt sophomore year to just get on for specials, right?
Yeah.
And kind of work his way right there. Whereas you were kind of already, like Coach was saying, those levels allowed you to be ready-made. I mean, look, you played against all of those guys when you played other teams, but you also every day in practice went against one of those guys.
Yeah.
I mean, you're lining up against the guy, Tommy Sweeney, who's in the NFL right now, every day in practice, right? Like the guy in front of you, Aquadine Muhammad, like Quan is in the league still, right? Like, so that's the guy that's in front of you to, telling you, hey, this is kind of, what's going on. So you're ready made. And then that's what we've seen a lot of.
Yeah. And one of the things I wonder is does it become a situation where you have to actually say, okay, I was at a great program. I'm already a guy that is a starter kind of right away, had the ability to be a starter. Now, where do I go? How do I continue to push to squeeze more out of myself? Like, keep going to another level. Like, is that something that you kind of thought about as a player?
Yeah. So honestly, I did not think of that at first. So I actually lost my starting position my junior year to a younger guy. He took it from me because I wasn't doing that for myself. I wasn't pushing myself. I got complacent. I was like, I'm good. I'm the starter. I'm like fine here. And I lost my spot, and I hit myself, and I looked at myself in the mirror, and I was like, what is going on right now? And I had to put everything together, and I worked my ass off, or my butt off. Sorry.
No, you're good.
No, you can curse. It's YouTube.
This is one of those podcasts, buddy. You're all good.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
Yeah, so I worked my ass off to get back on the field because, I didn't want to sit there and watch. And from there, they actually created a whole new defense to incorporate me into that. And I ended up playing kind of a rush end. They made a whole thing. They called it speed canes. So I would come in, D lineman would come out. I'd play rush end, and I would go cause havoc, And then
you were like, that's the type of player you were. Is you were kind of that tweener, right? Like that. Am I a linebacker? Like too athletic and small to be a D lineman, but not big enough to be the linebacker, but not fast enough to be a true DB. But like, so like, and I know when Ches came in, right, that whole system, that 4-2-5-ish, which now seems to kind of be the norm for everything, you know, you kind of adapted to that.
Yeah, it was perfect for me.
Right.
Because I was able to step into different positions. You know, I lined up at D end. I had a sack at D tackle once. I played middle linebacker, outside linebacker, safety. You know, I've been everywhere. And I think me getting benched was the best thing that's ever happened to me, because I was able to look myself in the face and say, I need to make a change and I need to start pushing again. And I ended up earning my starting spot back. I ended up, you know, becoming an all-Patriot League player. We won the championship. I was able to be a leader on that team. So that me getting benched changed my trajectory a lot. You know, before that I was complacent. I was sitting there. I didn't have that question of myself of how am I going to keep pushing myself until that happened. So, yeah.
No, and the reason I brought that up is because when I played at UConn was FCS when I was I'm dating myself for the second time, but that when I played. So, and I came from like a public school, and, you know, like, I mean, our plays in high school was toss right to me, toss left. I mean, literally, like, that was the play in the huddle. Like, toss right to Schuman, like, and run. Like,
a little different at Bosco.
I mean, I didn't know anything. You know what I mean? I didn't know anything when I came to college. I was just an athlete, and I was good at, but I had the, you know, kind of an upside. But my roommate was a Bergen Catholic kid. It was a quarterback, and he came in, literally started from day one, right? Yeah. And I mean, literally a quarterback, and was like firing the ball over the field. And I was like, holy cow, like, you know, because he played at so much better competition in high school, and he really didn't have to transition as much. But a similar thing happened to him. We had a coaching change, and you adapted, but he had a hard time adapting. And I remember thinking, and we were roommates, and he's a great guy. I remember my mindset was like, holy cow, I'm a really good athlete, but like, I don't know anything about football. Like, I'm learning the football aspect of the game, you know? Yeah. Whereas he knew a lot, like he knew so much, and he was 6'5", you know, and the hardest thing for him was adapting to, okay, this is what they want me to do, to get out of the mindset of, you know, I come from the best, like I was around the best competition. And I think it's a fantastic thing that you went through, because players, everybody goes through it in a different way. You know, I had to learn the game. I had to do that kind of aspect. You had to kind of get knocked off the pedestal to get back up top. Yeah. But I think that aspect of it is important, because one of the things that's so great about college football, no matter what level you play at college, right? Because you probably coach kids that are Division III to Division I, and no matter what level it is, everybody comes in and they're like, you know, like one of the first things you do when you come in, and you guys start talking about, oh, I was all state at so-and-so. And, you know, and obviously you turn around, you realize like everybody was all state, you know what I mean? Like, right. Every single kid, you stop asking the question, because everybody was all state. Everybody was all something.
Everybody was that guy.
Everybody was that guy. And you realize, oh, wow, like we're kind of at this playing field. I have to really like work, you know?
I got to level up now, you know, and that brings it back to Coach Toll. If he didn't instill the toughness in me when I was young, I would have just folded, you know, I would have got benched, and I would have been done, you know, but he taught me to keep pounding, keep going. And I think that really helped me out.
There's no doubt about it. It's awesome. Okay. Let's talk about the real fun stuff. You're coaching now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you're the defensive coordinator at a young age, defensive coordinator at a young age, at Catholic, a powerhouse program. What's your philosophy of coaching defense, and what you know, what are the things that you want to instill in your players and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So for me, I take it right back to Bosco. I want tough guys. I want guys that were willing to hit. You know, when we played down in Florida, we weren't that guy. We weren't that team. And I knew things needed to change. We've gotten a lot more physical since then. We're doing some minier Bosco drills, not really as intense as them, but a little level down.
Within the parameters.
Yeah,
don't get yourself fired doing it.
Yeah,
you know how it is.
Toe the line. We toe the line.
Yeah.
All right. We got it. We know the name of the game.
We're trying to get a little bit more physical because especially the team we're playing coming up, Zavarian, they're, Matt Hasselback's kid is their quarterback. He's their tight end coach. It's a big rivalry. They run the power scheme. They line up in the power eye every play. They want to run it right at your throat. So we need to be very physical. We're preparing really hard for that. We have a nice bye week to help us, 2 weeks to get into it. But I want guys that are going to be fast, physical, and tough. That's all I really want. If we're flying to the ball, if we're going 1,000,000 miles per hour, we make a mistake, I'm okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
It's the guys that, are walking, looking at the play made. I'm standing at corner, the ball's over there. No real need for me to run. That's the stuff that gets me, hot. I need guys that are going to run to the ball, make a play, be physical. That's all I really want. But yeah.
One of the things I learned from playing defense in college was, and you might identify with this, the pursuit drill, right? The first time you do the pursuit drill,
run.
You're chasing and they want it perfect where because you're always thinking, okay, I'm gonna run chase a guy, I'm gonna tackle him, but they want you to perfectly tap right on the hips, right? Exactly. It has to be perfect, right? And you gotta get the right angle. And you learn how to run really fast and disciplined and get into the spot that you're supposed to be and not be stacked on top of a guy and all those things.
Don't trail color, all that stuff.
Don't cover your own jersey,
Yeah,
exactly.
Out of lane.
The first time you teach that stuff to a high school, I always felt that to be a game changer because a lot of high school coaches that did it. There's a lot of great high school coaches that don't play in college, right? Yeah. And they're not as familiar with the pursuit. I know every guy that's played, especially linebacker, right? Linebacker college, like that pursuit drill, that if you don't do that perfect, you might be doing that darn thing 10 times.
Right,
I mean, 10 times, 20.
Oh, yeah.
It don't matter. There's no hey, all right, next group. No,
I pulled the quad. I pulled the quad doing it. And I'm like, you know what? I just got to stay in there. I got to stay in there with the quad pull because
get up.
Just go. You just got to keep going.
Yeah.
But you learn that. So how important do you feel like you talk about playing tough, smart, fast? How important do you feel things that you teach them can instill beyond the tackling aspect and all those? What are things like that you think are important for defensive players to learn that make that difference in the mindset?
Yeah, I think that the whole covering your own jersey is a huge thing, especially for the linebackers. So the way we run the scheme, we have a lot of going across face. I don't want to give everything away.
Right. Yeah, don't do that.
So our linebackers need to be, fast on their toes and smart with their brain because they got to make the D line right. If they cover one of our D linemen, so we run a 3-3 stack.
Yep.
They cover one of our D linemen, that could be out the gate. So I think that pursuit drill is great because it's teaching you to not follow your own jersey, find your own path and lock everything up, fill up every hole, fill up every gap, and then run to the ball. Because that's how you get noticed by colleges. If you're in the film in every single play, who is this kid? Where is he coming from? How is he in every single picture at the end of the play? So I think that is instilling, go for it. Just fly around the field and make a play. That's all we really want as coaches. And if you're flying around everything you do, you're going to be on the field and you're going to get noticed. If you're the guy that's just walking around looking at everything happen, I don't know what to tell you. It's probably not going to happen at the next level. They're just going to write you off immediately. In high school, you can maybe get away with it a couple times because of the depth, but college, you're not
happening. You stick out like a sore thumb, right? They find you. It's going to find you sooner or later. I think that's one of the things I preach to my guys as well still is, look, man, good things happen when guys are around the football. So, I mean, look, you don't need to know you don't need to know what coverage it is. You don't need to know what blitz is on. You don't even need to know up front to run to the ball full speed. And I really, like you said, like, I don't really, to me, if we're going to do something wrong, at least we're doing it full speed, right? Yeah. Like, don't be that tweener guy that, oh, I shouldn't have went. Now I'm trying to go back or go here. If you commit, own it and just go,
Yeah, just make a decision and run,
Exactly.
Yeah, 100%.
I love that in the 3C3 stack. The whole philosophy of making the other guy right.
The guy right. Absolutely.
Making the guy right.
Huge.
Like the safeties make the linebackers right. The linebackers make the D linemen right. And that's the whole, the key core. I always think that's the key. I haven't run the 3-3-5 quite a bit. That's the key philosophy of it that allows no matter what happens. And it makes it, by the way, very hard to block because
extremely
no matter what scheme you run, if the guys understand that and they're running,
they can never be right.
Then the other team is always going to be wrong. You're 100% right there. They're always going to be wrong. And once they nail that, man, like guys just start flying around and people are like, offensive coordinators are trying to figure out, now wait, what blitz are they? And you know what?
Like, no,
you're not even blitzing.
You're like, that's not a blitz.
They're reading it on the fly.
Right? Like that's his area. That's his spot. He's responsible for that. And that's listen. I say this a lot of like high school football. Sometimes we get so overly concerned with what they do defensively, offensively. Like, how about just be really good at what you do and dictate to them what to, even as a defense, like you're going to run this, I'm going to stop it. Right. Like, and that's how we're going to work.
That's something that Bosco, I remember Coach Morangi saying that all the time. I don't care if they know exactly what we're running, try and beat it. Yell them, tell them the play that we're running.
Yep. Because I should still be good enough to execute and get done.
Oh yeah.
What we're going to get done.
We're going to get it done. You're not going to be able to beat us. Here's what we're doing. It's kind of, I just saw a video on Chad Ochocinco doing the same thing. He said, I'm running a slant. Try and guard it.
Boom.
Slant. I love that mindset.
That's it. That's one of the things that, and you probably deal with it with high school kids too. They're like, they know, they'll come over.
They know what we're doing.
They know what we're doing.
Doesn't matter.
Who cares, dude?
Everybody,
You want me to tell them? I'll tell them for you.
I just watched tape for how many hours this week of what they do. Yeah, I know we all know what everybody's doing. You still got to actually do it. So
whoever can beat them now. Yeah, just execute. Whoever executes wins. That's the name of the game.
Oh, it's so funny. I remember years ago, I was a head coach at Powell Park, and while you were in high school, we had built it up. I think we had been in the Group 3 state championships, might have been 2012. And we were probably the worst program in the state when we first took over. But I remember as we were starting to get really good, we were playing this team, and we used to call our sweep play used to be called Sweden. Literally, I would do like I'm sweeping. That used to be I would call Sweden, and we had like the base colors were like red was to the right, and then like yellow was to the left. But we had alternative names for all these things. So like, for example, Giants would also be, I could call Giants Sweden, and that would be to the right. Okay. Mm-hmm. I could call Jets Sweden, that would be to the left. So kid turns to me and goes, one of our like wide receivers, he goes, I call out playing it, and the other kid is like, oh, I know the other team says, I know what's coming. And my wide receiver turns to me, he goes, Coach, he knows what's coming. I got to stalk block him. He knows what's coming. I'm like, all right. So I call the alternative name for Sweden and the alternative color to the same exact direction.
Yeah.
Same exact play. It's just the alternative name. That's like check. And I called those two the same thing. And he looked over and he pancaked the other kid. And I was like, dude, it don't matter. I just ran the same play. I just called it. I just changed the name so you felt better.
Right. It does not matter.
It doesn't matter. And he was like, okay, I won't say that again. But kids get caught in that stuff, right? What do you like tell them when they're like, oh my God, the other team, and you have higher level players, so not going to do it as much. Yeah. But when they feel like, oh man, they're in a rut, right? And it's not going their way, and like whatever you're running isn't like working for them per se. What's kind of the thing that you start to tell them to keep them on the right path?
Yeah, I think the thing that I took from Coach Chesney is belief. That's that's one thing. Every time we were down, he would look at us and say, I fucking believe, you know? And that was something that everybody built off and fed off and started being like, I believe, because it all starts with believing you could win. So for me, I do a similar thing, you know, like I believe that we could beat this team. They might have had a couple good plays on us, but it doesn't matter. We keep doing what we do. We fly and we're physical. We're going to beat this team. I believe we can do that. And then I asked, do you believe? And then if they believe, then I know we're ready to rock, you know, and that's just a little thing that starts getting us going. And it's like a stepping stone, you know, once we get that little belief in it, then we make a tackle, then we make a big play, then we turn the ball, we get the ball back, you know, things stack up. And it all starts with just believing. So that's where we got to start. So that's all I have to say really is, you know, it all starts with belief in yourself, belief in your teammates, belief that the coaches are going to put us in the right place to win this game.
That's awesome. And do you do things to build them up from that standpoint, like in the off? Obviously, that's a big time that you build those beliefs, the off season, the preseason. Did you do specific things with them to try and help them to understand how to get that belief in themselves, right? Like you're a really confident guy. Like you're a guy that like, if I was coaching you, I'd be like, okay, you know, I'm just going to let him loose. You know what I mean? He already has it. Like, I don't want to have to kind of overcoach him. Right. Yeah. But everybody's not like, and you're a great coach. And that's why you understand. Not everybody's like, what are some of the things that you do to give them those building blocks so they form the beliefs in themselves?
Yeah, I think it all starts with the little things. You know, I make sure everybody's foot's exactly on the line every time we start a drill. You know, not over it, not behind it. Starts with the little things. Make everything perfect. When we're backpedaling, it needs to be perfect. When we're opening up, it needs to be perfect. When we're tracking the hip and making an open field tackle, it needs to be perfect. You need to have two hands on the hip. And if you can do everything perfect, then when we put it together, you know, there's only one thing it's going to be, you know, it's going to be perfect because we're doing everything the way we should be, everything the way it should be. So at the end of the result, you know, 1 + 1 = 2. You know, that's all we need to do is work our asses off, do everything the way it's supposed to be good people on and off the field, and good things are going to come.
No doubt about it. That's phenomenal. I'll leave you with this, and this you'll find this funny. So I coach my son's 8-year-old team. Okay.
Oh, buddy.
Oh, that's probably awesome.
So we go for like an hour, 30, hour, 45. Everybody else practices like, and they do a great job. The other coaches in the other levels, because it's a good program, but they go for like 2.5 hours. We do an hour 45. And our whole key thing on defense, we do pursuit drill with them, and they can't they can't rotate. The subs don't rotate in the, you know, I mean, at their age, it's not really twos, like, but, you know, they don't rotate in. The next group doesn't rotate in until the first group all gets a tag and is in a different spot. And you see, like, the D lineman, you know how kids are at 8 years old, like, they can't. I'm like, we'll wait for you to chase them all the way down there. You go get them. That's it. That's fine. And you know what? I'll tell you, they run to the ball. Like I said, you know, they're 8 years old. They're not phenomenal tacklers yet. You know, obviously that takes time.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this, they all are sprinting to the ball. Like, and it's amazing. The first time we did it, like, I know the assistants were like,
what is going on? What is this guy doing? Like, these are 8-year-olds.
They can't walk and chew gum. You know what I mean? Like,
I think for the 8th grade level, though, that's the best thing you could possibly do.
Well, not 8th grade. 8.
We're talking 3rd grade, bro.
They're 3rd graders.
I think that's
not 8th grade. 8 years old.
You get eight guys to the ball at once. You're gonna make the tackle. One guy at once is, I don't know. You know,
8. This is 8U, Corey. 8U.
Yeah. And it's crazy because, like, so like these guys too, they also have all these rules.
3rd graders.
Like, you got to be lined up in double tight. You have to have a guy over a guy on defense. Like, all these youth rules that they have for them. So, like, these guys adapted, dude. It's crazy.
I adapted it. We just fly. Like, I had, like, you know, I never
the ball.
Gone.
That's the whole thing. Like, I was like, you fly the ball, like, sweet. Like, everybody has their angles, and it's pretty incredible. So, like, you teach. My whole thing is, like, you know what, you start to teach them now. I'm like, by the time they get to high school, that high school coach won't even have to coach them on that part. Like,
absolutely not.
They'll be doing it, and they'll be ready to go. And it's funny because at 8 years old, most coaches are worried about like they still want to do like, head to head, tackle each
Old
other, like
school Alabama drill.
Yeah, like I'm like, let's teach them to run. Like we're going to teach them to tackle. Obviously, you got to teach tackle. But that's still going to take time, to get it. The little kids are not good enough athletes yet to be great at it.
Yeah.
But some of them are, but some of them aren't. But you can teach anyone to run. You can teach anyone to run to the ball. Anyone. I don't care who you are. You can learn to run to the ball. And once you do that, like they make tackles on accident.
Just running.
Who bumps into who?
Running, the kid bangs into them, they fall down. So
perfect.
It's funny, but I wanted to leave you with that because I think those things are so important, and that and the game has changed like a little bit where those things are important because in 2002 when I first started coaching, listen, I used to Oklahoma. I was crazy back then. I would do Oklahomas. Like now, obviously, I'm like, we don't do those things in the same way anymore. Like we modify things. But I was a crazy man when I first started coaching, and I had to adapt those things. But running, as I learned, I was like, man, if you could teach kids to run, be tough, like you teach them, get after it all the time, and it changed the world. And what you said best to me was, you take that with you. You learned it from Toll. You take that with you in everything you do. Like when something doesn't work out, the first thing you go back to is like, hey man, I got to fight through it. I gotta adapt. I gotta fight through it. And no matter what happens in their lives, they're gonna learn that from you. The kids that are playing with you are gonna learn that you. And just like you learned it from Toll, they're gonna learn from you. And they're gonna be on their own podcast 15 years from now, talking about how Coach Stefanik taught me all these things. And that's the cycle that I don't care how they change the game, as long as they don't put us in flags. I don't care how
we can be okay.
Believe me, I have flag football leagues. It's a different game. Like, I like, but as long as they put us in flags, as long as it's still actually tackle, all these things will apply,
Oh, yeah. It'll never change. It'll never change. You got to love it. Yes,
Coach,
sir.
where can they find you? On I don't know if you have Twitter or whatever, like college coaches, anyone who wants to get in touch with you.
Yeah, I have Instagram. I don't have Twitter. My Instagram's just Corey Stefanik 4 on Instagram. So that's where I'm at. I don't have Twitter because of Bosco days. We weren't allowed to have Twitter because the whole scenario happened that I don't want to talk about. But I just never got Twitter.
Smart man.
Yeah. I remember the scenario.
Yeah.
We did our best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm on IG. And then, my email's corey.stefanik4@gmail.com. So I'm active there as well. But appreciate you guys having me on here. It was a lot of fun. Good to talk to you guys.
Appreciate you. Really
good, man. Good luck this week. I know you got big games coming up. So
yes, sir. Good luck to you guys too. Good luck with the 8-year-olds, man.
That's my world now.
Love it.
Hey, thanks, buddy. Good luck. We'll
this way, coaching. I'm working my way from here down, going down.
All right, brothers. I'll talk to you later. Have a great day.
Thanks, man.
All right, take it easy.
Soon, bro.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Take care.
That was great.
Good kid.
Oh yeah, really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. It's I'll tell you this. One of the things I've learned from being on these podcasts with some of your Bosco guys is that Toll's impact, man, is.
And you notice that, like, none of them say anything about he taught me how to do.
Yeah.
He taught me how to backpedal. He taught me how to swim move. He taught me that I need to be lined up. Toughness, grit, hard work, dedication, respect. Like,
get after it. Go fast.
When in doubt, just
go.
Like,
I think that those things are. I think I shocked him too. He thought I said 8th grade. That's great.
Yeah, he thought you were. He thought you were 100% like 8th graders.
Derek, you know what though? It is amazing that, it is amazing that what kids can actually learn. You know, one of the things I saw, and you'll appreciate this. So when I first started coaching 8-year-olds, because I was not familiar with tackle in 8-year-olds, I thought, okay, I gotta like kind of baby them along, you know?
Right.
And I watched it. Hold on. I after we're off, I watched a youth coach talk about. It was on TikTok or something, and you know what he talked about? He talked about not babying players.
Yeah, no way.
He's saying even if they're young, he said just set the expectation that you want them to get
Absolutely. And they will achieve it. They will reach it.
They will start to work to it. They're going to be at different stages, so it's not going to look like.
So be patient, right? Like, so be patient.
It's not going to look like what a college kid will look like, but they'll do it their version well, and it'll put them ahead. The problem that a lot of coaches do, and this is a high school do, people baby kids in high school. You know, we only run this, like we won't teach this wrinkle.
We only do this. We only do that.
Right, because they're saying my kids can't learn it, right?
Correct.
Like, no, they'll do it if you expect it of them, right? And that's the thing that I think, so to me, I'm getting from this is like, hey man, no, like we expect you to do this. This is what we expect you to do. So you figure it out, or you're gonna have to go somewhere else where they don't expect you to do this.
Where they're not gonna rely on you to do as much like this.
It's really, really interesting. It's interesting stuff. And I remember, listen, I remember the youth. I know the youth coaches from Franklin Lakes from when I was over there, and they were like that too with the young kids. You know, they were, hey man, we want you to do, you know, we expect you to do this, we expect you to do that, you know, type of thing. And it's really interesting. So anyway, that was a good one.
Massachusetts football, brother.
Massachusetts football.
Right? And for him to see him at such a high level, like right away in his career, like, you know what I mean? Like in terms of coaching, and now to have him, I mean, look, you talk about, he's like, you know, hey, what's your coaching philosophy? Well, you know, tough, physical, fast. Like, okay, yeah, that's like, you know, what you're taking the mold of what you've seen. And I also think, like, you know, that guy that's at Holy Cross right now, Chesney, is a great guy. I've heard him speak at clinics and whatnot. Like, he is a high energy, all in, you know, guy that came in there from a Division II Assumption program he had turned that around, right? And then to come into Holy Cross, and then listen, you hear a guy like that, like Corey he talked about like losing his spot and having to be humbled a little bit, makes him a better coach, right? That he's had to go through those things and fight those, and just the fact that he was even willing to talk about that publicly and bring up on a podcast kind of shows you the type of person he is. And then that's the guy. Those are the types of guys that I want coaching, you know, my kids.
There's no doubt about it. I'll tell you something about the feeder Bosco had with Franklin Lakes, which I thought was interesting, because they had a lot of kids, like a lot of those kids from Wyckoff and Oakland, for the most part, I think went to their public schools. But the Franklin Lakes they had the choice of either school, and because they had the choice, a lot of them also went to parochial, because it was kind of, they weren't on one side really or the other. They're really in between.
Yes.
And Franklin Lakes also is a place, obviously, that has good means, you know.
Of course.
But what I thought was interesting was their overall, they had so many high level people around the youth program. So, for example, this is a little bit after Corey, but Chris Snee was the offensive coordinator of Franklin Lakes.
You know, he's now at
Boston College.
Yeah.
But just to give you an idea, he was the 5th grade offensive coordinator, then the 6th grade offensive, 7th grade. Like
work your way up. Just work your way up.
His son was the tight end on the team, and they had a really good team. And it was interesting because I want to say Danny Parisi was on that team, and
probably.
Then I think oh my goodness, I can't believe I forgot. But a couple of the running backs from Bosco, and then a couple of guys who went to Rampo that were really good. And so, but it was really interesting how they had so many, like, when you were standing there in the silent watching their game as like a high school coach, their staff in youth was like a who's who of guys
Right. Yep.
that you would like see on college,
Yep.
college or pros. So it was really, really cool from that standpoint. And I'm sure those kids had cool experiences from that as well. And then the head guy.
Yeah, because there was always guys around the program, right? Like even as they transitioned like towards, you know, like even Bosco, like think about guys would come back all the time. Like I can remember, you know, and you'll remember this name, Steve Levy would come back to practice. And it's like, dude, he just, you know, I mean, you think Aaron Rodgers had Steve Levy on Hard Knocks because they're still best friends from Cal. Like Aaron Rodgers, Steve Levy was his roommate.
Oh, was he?
Oh, dude, a whole episode of Hard Knocks. He's like,
was Levy the starter and then Aaron became the guy?
Yes.
Is that what happened? Okay.
Yep. Because Levy was out there for a while.
Very, very interesting. Cool, man. That was a great podcast. Good job.
Cool.
All right. We'll close it out here and move on. Go from there. Good luck this week.
Cool. Thank you.
Get after it, brother.
You too. That's what we do.
All right.